So here we are, season 3, episode 3.
We are
I'm Dennis McGowan with my lovely and talented co-host Shelli D. Hawkins. How you doing today, Shelli?
I'm doing fantastic. You sound like you have a little bit of a cold, Dennis.
I do. I'm a little raspy. We just got back from Astra. You were there. I don't know why I'm saying it like you weren't there.
Right? We were there together. And it was everywhere.
It was yeah. So I flew into Vermont and I was driving down to Lake George, New York, is where the Astra Empire State Towing Recovery Association holds their annual event. And driving through some of the mountain passes, wow, pollen everywhere. It looked like it was snowing at one point. So I'm a little nasally, a little congested, but we'll get through this.
For sure. We're excited to be here because June is National Safety Month, and we want to focus on all things safety this month for sure, because it is a major topic for our towers working on the roadside every single day. And how can they be as safe as possible? We're going to focus on that.
Yeah, safety is one of the things that we talk about here all the time. It's critical to the towing industry. So this month's podcast is all about raising awareness around safety. We're going to talk about why there is a National Safety Month. Do you know why there is a National Safety Month, Shelli?
I can imagine, but I would like to hear the correct answer from you.
Why we have a National Safety Month? It's because in 1996, the National Safety Council established June as the National Safety Month in the United States. It's to increase public awareness and make sure that we understand safety, health, and risks, and hopefully decrease the number of injuries and fatalities. We know how dangerous of an industry this is. And, the most recent estimate, and I think we've gotten actually much worse since then, is that a tow truck driver is killed in the line of duty every 6 days. Yes. And that study is actually a few years old. That data is a little out of date, and it's gotten much more dangerous since then. I think we've already had 20 plus struck-bys already this year.
Yes.
And no sign of slowing up. We're going to talk about National Safety Month, why it's so important in the workplace, and what towing businesses like yours should be doing to stay safe while in the truck, on the road assisting motorists, loading, unloading, and just generally about safety.
In your experience as a tow truck operator, Dennis, and being in companies, and I know you had other roles, but what are some things that you saw on a regular basis to make the towers safer?
High vis equipment, high vis, PPE gear, vests, your uniforms with your, the pant legs and everything else. The more high vis, the better.
What is PPE?
Personal protection equipment.
Personal protective equipment?
Protective protection.
Because if you can't see them, then it's not a good thing. When you wear dark clothing that blends into the asphalt that you're standing on, not a good thing at all. Right.
Yeah. You need to be seen out there. There's a reason that the federal government requires you to have X amount of reflective striping, depending upon what level of a roadway you're on. There's Class 2 gear, there's Class 3 gear. You should use Class 3 gear as often as you possibly can, but there are some roads where you're only required to have Class 2.
I'm going to put a plug out here for my buddy Chuck Anderson over at Nolte's. He taught me something a long time ago I will never forget. So he is in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and he would always order all of his protective equipment in the color orange. And I really didn't have a whole lot of folks that wanted anything orange. It was always a high-vis lime green. That was just every day. That's what people ordered.
Yeah.
I asked one day, I said, Chuck, why do you go with the orange? He said, well, we're in a high snow area, and I want you to imagine driving on the interstate and seeing towers in a blizzard. Are you going to see the lime green first, or are you going to see the orange first?
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that way.
Great perspective. And both are allowed on the roadway, no matter what the conditions are. But yeah, I love that perspective.
Safety doesn't just mean slow down, move over. Safety doesn't just mean high vis equipment. Safety also means lighting. We're going to get into that in a little bit too.
We have got a great friend of mine from way back in the day, John Golden from the Whelen Corporation out of Connecticut, that will be with us. I can't wait.
Is it Whelen or Whalen?
We're going to find out.
We should ask him.
I'm going to say Whelen.
I'm going to go with Whalen.
Right, because
I could be wrong. I'm just going to blame the congestion on saying
you're
wrong.
If you're wrong, what's my prize?
I'll bet you $1.
You're on.
Okay. Another important part of safety, and this is a discussion that we had last year with some professionals as well, is just as simple as getting in and out of the truck. A good deal of workplace injuries happen just climbing in and out of the truck, just climbing up and down the bed of your truck. don't climb up and down the bed of your truck unless you absolutely have to. I've rolled my ankle getting out of the truck. I think we've all done it at least once or twice where we've just stepped the wrong way. Make
I've
sure.
seen, I've seen operators fall off the side of rollbacks.
I know plenty of operators who've run 4-car carriers. I
Hmm.
don't know a single 4-car carrier operator who has not fallen off the top of their carrier at least once in their lifetime.
It's just such a dangerous industry that we're in.
Absolutely. So we have to make sure we're protecting our towers at every which way we possibly can.
Hmm. Sure.
So we can jump right into this here. We'll go ahead and bring our guest on. We've got John Golden from Whelen.
You said Whalen. I said Whelan. He's going to answer it here in a minute.
We'll bring John on in just a second, and we'll go ahead and kick off a great conversation.
We are so excited to have with us today John Golden from. We're going to ask you the question: is it Whalen or Whelan, John? Right?
It is Whelen,
It
as
is
in wheeling and
I
dealing.
always get it wrong.
the Whelan Corporation from Connecticut. We are just so excited to have you. We're going to kick off our show talking about June being Safety Month and all things safety. As you know, lighting is really at the core of safety. So we are excited to have you here, and we would like for you to give just a brief background about you, your time in the industry, and all those things.
Well, sure. I've been at Whelen Engineering for a little over 20 years, specializing in the amber or work truck market. And then I've also done product management and some special projects. And now I've joined the marketing team at Whelen to help launch products. Before that, I worked for 3 other lighting and electrical companies for my previous 12 years of industry experience.
It is all things lighting. We love it. 20 years at Whelan. I can't imagine all the different evolutions of lighting that you've seen come to fruition.
Well, that's for sure. When I first started in the industry, the technology was basically incandescent lighting. Basically, that technology was unchanged for probably 80 or 90 years. It was a tungsten filament inside a glass bulb. And over time, there were improvements. Halogen technology came out where the introduction of halogen inside that glass bulb extended the life and increased the intensity of the light, but it was kind of a small step forward. Whelen concentrated in its formative years on strobe technology in the automotive business. And we were really kind of the owners of that technology, where a lot of our competitors were kind of beating us up about it. So we battled hard and we got a lot of market share with strobe. At one point, we dabbled with HID technology, which is xenon, like you see in xenon headlights, like maybe on some German import cars, Mercedes, BMW.
The super white, super bright, right?
Super white, almost glary, people talk about. And it just didn't really fit the emergency warning market well. So we tried a little bit and backed off from that. And then pretty much around the time I joined Whelen, we started experimenting with 5mm LED, which was really the type of device that was used in tractor trailer lighting for about 5 years earlier. And it was starting to become intense enough to be used in warning light applications. But it didn't go over really well. In some instances it did, but it was not really embraced because of the looks, the kind of like a lot of pixels or dots when you look at the light.
Yes, I've seen some of those. I saw some over the weekend, and I was just like,
Yeah,
that doesn't look OEM. That looks aftermarket, but it was indeed OEM. And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
right. And from there, Whelen kept experimenting and talking to new LED suppliers, and ultimately we decided to like almost imitate our strobe light bars using LED technology. And when we first did that, people would not believe it was LED because it was such a drastic improvement over the 5mm pixelated look.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very intense, very smooth, very good performance. And from there on, basically our production switched very quickly from strobe technology to LED within a matter of a couple of years. Like everything Whelen made dramatically changed in about a 2-year period.
So for those that don't know, what actually sets an LED apart from standard incandescent or something?
I want to know what is an LED? I know what an
Sure.
LED is. And I want our audience to know, define LED and all that.
LED stands for light emitting diode, and that's a solid state semiconductor. So it is not prone to vibration or shock damage like a tungsten filament was in the days earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's very energy efficient, long life, 50,000 to 100,000 hours of life. It's just been a dream technology to work with in so many ways.
I'm going to put you on the spot and say who invented it. I really don't know. And if you don't know, that's okay.
Actually, it was around since the 1950s, and it took, decades to improve and come up in intensity to the point where a warning light company would even start to, experiment with it.
That's great. I love the definition. That's fantastic. We all get asked every single day, what is on the horizon? What's new? What do you see as the next big thing in our lighting industry?
So we're continuing to see, as with all things electronics, miniaturization. So LEDs are getting smaller and smaller, which allows us to pursue really neat new designs. The intensity is coming up like 20 times every decade, and the cost is coming down 10 times every decade. So we can put a lot more LEDs into a product, which is lending itself to 2 and 3 color products today that we have. The term we use at Whelen is duo or trio,
Mm-hmm.
where you have every other LED is a different color, and you program it to maybe flash red one time and then flash blue the second time.
One question that came to mind while we were listening, I remember pre-LED, how many batteries did these lights need to run all the electronics, not just lighting, whatever. Is that a part of the evolution of the LED? Is they want less and less of a draw on the battery?
That was a big part of the quick transition from strobe to LED. Again, Whelen was a strobe leader, and the other technology at the time was halogen light bars. So a light bar might have drawn 40 amps, and moving to an LED would be down to maybe 10 amps. So there was a far less power consumption and less abuse on the vehicle's alternator.
I love it.
So, John, in the towing market specifically, what kind of trends are you all seeing over there these days?
So some of the trends we're seeing and we're happy to see is more and more people, especially manufacturers, are really thinking about viewing angles as the users are using the equipment and performing their dangerous job along the highways. One OEM I can think of is Jerdan. They developed the rail system, which basically allows them to add warning lights along the side of a flatbed. And as you're loading a vehicle to the flatbed, there's a certain angle it's tilting at. We now have the warning lights designed to face exactly horizontal at that point.
Oh, wow.
So they've done a lot to think about their end users' safety. So we've cooperated with them to on that design. The other thing that I've seen people do a better job of, end users, dealers, OEMs, is making sure the warning lights are at eye level. And that's what you see predominantly in the law enforcement business. Put warning lights at eye level to catch people's attention. And the other thing about, thinking about that is consider obstacles. So if there's any devices on the truck that might obscure the warning light, think about that before you place a light there. The other trend I see in towing is state lighting regulations. Many states are now allowing red and blue in addition to amber.
True.
That is not my area of expertise, and Whelen does not try to keep track with all the state regulations. We just try to keep track with offering the products that customers want and the color configurations they want. But we're seeing more and more of that, and I'm guessing from memory that there's probably 8 to 10 states that are now allowing something other than amber now.
I know here in Texas recently, they've added blues to the list, and it's a mixed bag. Obviously, it does afford a little bit more, difference on the roadway as our towers are out there working. But I've also seen other agencies now pick up blue, other areas of work. We've got landscapers out here that are running blue lights on the side of the road while they're working, and it gets back to the original conversation of, is amber not enough because everyone has amber?
Right. So in Texas, that a lot of that started with Texas DOT, who we work with closely in developing their systems. And that's exactly what they were after, is a little more attention, a little more respect when they're out there maintaining the highways. And obviously, tow operators want that same attention and respect.
Mhm.
I've seen some of Texas DOT's equipment out here, and it really is amazing. The light bars and the arrow sticks and all the different combinations that they have, and not only that, they seem to know how to use it well. That they're not just going in, getting in the truck and flipping on every switch and putting everything on. They
Right.
tend to use what they need for the given situation. It's interesting to see that, because you don't always see that these days.
Right.
For sure. Being for the years that I was at AW Direct and selling as much lighting as I did, I would come across some folks that needed some help in understanding how to install and how to maintain their lighting. That certainly is a big topic. I'm just going to throw this out there before you give us your advice, John. Like the one piece of advice that I could give someone is, when they're installing them, do not crank down the screws as you install it to whatever you're doing, because that will cause cracks in the lenses of the lights. I would see that happen all the time, and I'm
So,
sure you hear that too.
so put my electric power drill away with the electric screw.
Right.
Yeah, no impacts on Whelen lights. No.
Right. Right. Definitely, a lot of our new designs, we're trying to take that out, knowing that a lot of OEM customers are mass producing vehicles on production lines, and they're
Hmm.
using, uh, automated or power tools, etc.
Hmm.
So we have some new designs that we're starting to implement that kind of taking that factor out of play.
Good.
So we are watching and learning as we design and sell product.
I love that you folks are based out of Connecticut, because you certainly see the extreme conditions of the weather and how that affects just the rain, the snow, the heat, the cold. What are some
Salt.
words?
Salt's another big one.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, yes. What are some amazing words of wisdom that you can give our folks out there as
So
far as
so
all that?
definitely the factors of extreme conditions, moisture and vibration. Also, corrosion is a big issue, and salt and moisture really equals corrosion. So what do we do to make sure that is minimized? And most of our designs in the recent years have involved all of our electronics are conformal coated, and that is a process where there's a polyurethane layer of material added to any of the electrical sensitive positions on a circuit board, so
Okay.
moisture can't get in there and corrode. Some of the other things we're implementing and you want to look for when considering products is something called IP67, which is ingress protection.
Mhm.
And 6.7 is really a rating system. It's there's multiple levels. 6.7 means that it is dust proof and waterproof up to I think it's 10 feet underwater.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And the other thing that we're just starting to implement is a new patented technology. We haven't really named it yet, but we call it inside the company, we call it potting dam technology. And
Okay.
basically, there was one weakness in everyone's design, in that all vehicular lights use braided wire.
Okay.
And think of braided wire, if you went to grab like a bunch of ballpoint pens in your hand, like 10 or 15 of them, and squish them together, you would still, if you held it up to the light, you'd still see a bunch of empty space in between all those ballpoint pens. Well, mathematically, inside a braided wire, there's around 10% open airspace.
Hmm.
And that's where moisture and corrosion was coming up the wire from the external world into the light. So
Interesting.
we've developed a technology to seal that off by having a little pool of potting material that, as soon as we snap the top on that pool, there's a little cover we put on it, it forces that material to go into the wires and then solidifies and seals it off.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's part of what we do at Whelen Engineering is really try to bulletproof our products.
Wow,
That is pretty cool.
that's almost impossible. But wow, you did a great job.
So the other things we just do, because we thoroughly test our products before we let them out the door, is we believe in robust construction. A light bar that has to stand up to extreme shock and vibration, as seen in a tow and recovery vehicle. We've learned over the years.
If it's one thing, towers are not. It's gentle.
And absolutely, and they're working on some of the roughest highways in this country too, with potholes and whatnot. It just happens, and it's just the construction of the vehicles that carries a lot of that shock load right up to the light bar. We've learned through. We're celebrating 70 years this year, so proven design over 70 years. There's things we've learned to always do and things to never do in designing a product. And then finally, proper installation. Again, I think we spoke to it a little bit ago about not overly torquing fasteners to crack lenses, etc.
100% agree. This is fantastic. I had a thought the other day that is there current Bluetooth technology in the lighting industry? What is it like?
So the Internet of Things is definitely here at Whelen Engineering. We've developed what's called a Whelen Cloud platform, which is our Internet of Things for vehicles. And we have antennas and something we call a vehicle safety gateway, which allows all this to happen. We've recently launched something called Core C, which allows all sorts of incredible programming to happen within a vehicle, and also it allows for new dynamic variable intensity flash patterns, which slow down and calm down and dim down warning lights at night. And the other thing that's possible now using these systems is vehicle to vehicle synchronization.
Yes.
Which is definitely a popular thing in the law enforcement market, but more and more in the work truck market. We're seeing an interest there. Think of a gang of snowplows going down and clearing the highway. And to coordinate all that lighting going on is desired out there in the market.
Yeah, I could see that coming in handy when you've got, when you're on a large recovery, when you got 7 or 8 pieces of equipment out there.
Right.
Different ends of the scene, and your incident commander can, whoever's coordinating your scene can also be coordinating your lighting and making sure your patterns and everything are all going in the same direction. That's really interesting.
Right.
Wish I had thought of that myself.
It's been a big project. We've kind of called it a moonshot because it was almost like NASA in the 1960s. It was a big investment for Whelen to do it, and now it's allowing us to have a very intelligent control system for a variety of vehicles.
So do you see a world maybe potentially where you have like police and fire and EMS and towing all in the same scene, and there's maybe some world where somebody's coordinating all the lights of all the vehicles at once?
Right now, the way it's structured, it's based on the fleet manager's decision. So if you have different fleet managers at that accident scene, it's probably not going to lend itself to, the vehicles speaking to each other.
Again, going back to my AW Direct days, selling a myriad of light bars and lighting. There is a lot of companies out there that are selling lighting. What can you say is the biggest differentiator between Whelen and just whatever is flooded in the market? How do you guys stay on top?
One of the things that differentiates us more than anything else is we are the warning light company that is made in the USA. We are a vertically integrated manufacturer that makes everything we can for ourselves. So we're not immune to supply chain issues that we're all hearing about today, but we are far less impacted by those challenges. The other thing you get when you buy any Whelen Engineering product is it's SAE Class 1, and that speaks to intensity. And we generally aim to shoot above the minimums for SAE Class 1 light intensity, where there's other manufacturers that just try to barely achieve that and keep their costs low, I guess. But we've always tried to overperform in that area. When it comes to physical construction, we've always prided ourselves on our design considerations for vibration, moisture, and corrosion, proofing the products as much as possible. Our electronic design, definitely we've analyzed over the years a lot of offshore manufactured product. They make a lot of claims in their catalog, which our engineers say can't possibly be real when they look at their designs. So the claims we make when you read our catalogs are very much for real, and the electronic design is important for the long life of the product also. So you don't have circuit board failures or LED failures, prematurely.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of folks over the years try and save a few bucks with going with some off-brand or no-name products, and I've also seen some folks end up with having to reach for a fire extinguisher or other issues that come up, especially if you
Right.
install them yourself and you really don't know what you're doing. You can really get into a dangerous world here.
Right. So we're very careful also when we select LED suppliers. We really only have a few approved LED suppliers, and we're looking for, obviously, world-class quality, but also optic performance that has to work well and consistently with our optic designs. We believe thoroughly in testing. Like I said before, we introduce any product to the market, it goes through rigorous mechanical, electrical, and environmental testing before it can be okayed for release. A couple other things you'll see in Whelen products is everything we make for exterior use has hard-coated lenses. This is a special process that's added to lenses after they're molded to apply a hard coat that makes them impervious to ultraviolet rays and scratching and wear and tear from dust and dirt and whatnot over time. You may notice in past years, I've seen police cars that are 2 years old and they have yellowing light bars from
Wow.
competitors. Well, this hard coat process prevents that from happening. Another feature you'll find in a lot of our light heads is we use a vent membrane to help manage the pressure. As warning lights heat up and cool down, there's a pressure difference that is caused by that temperature. And we include a Gore-Tex type material vent membrane to help that light head breathe without letting moisture and corrosion into the light.
Oh.
I'm sitting here taking this all in, Dennis, and it's just like, welcome to the world of lighting. Thank you, John, for explaining. It's just mind blowing to me. Really amazing.
So Shelly, you may not know this, but in a in a past life, I actually worked for a towing company that in our downtime we weren't really all that busy of a towing company. So in my downtime, I would hang around the shop, and one of the things that our shop actually did was we installed light packages for some of the local police and fire departments.
Very cool.
So I used to get to hang around that fairly often, and you spend enough time around those guys and see what they do, you can really see a difference in product quality.
Agree. You get what you pay for. And that's whenever I'm asked my opinion about different brands, that's, Shelly, have you heard of this one? It's brand new, or this one or this one. My bottom line is always you will get what you pay for, and look at the technology and look at the age of the company. And when you need help, who can you call? What is their warranty? Look at all the materials that they put out there online. The more you can read about them, the better the warranty. You're just going to have a much better experience with the lighting.
Shelly, you just touched on something that's really important to us. We have more than 120 people in the field as sales and service people that are there to help customers if anything comes up with our products.
That's fantastic. That's great. That is so very, very important with the lights that you have on a myriad of vehicles, not just police, law enforcement, anything on the roadside, but that's great. I love it.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure there are even countless other industries. I know, construction comes to mind, DOT, road safety, but I'm sure there are just dozens of other industries that I can't even think of off the top of my head that use this kind of technology. And it really is true. You see amber lights everywhere because there are so many different industries that have the ability to or the need to protect themselves.
Right.
for sure. Thinking about our folks out there that are buying tow trucks, whether they are new or used or even roadside assistance vehicles, what recommendations can you think of as they go about to purchase the lighting for their vehicle? Anything coming to mind?
I would always choose quality and make sure it's mounted and placed well on the vehicle, again at eye level. And of course, I work for a lighting manufacturer. I would always say the more the better. but
Right.
but consider all the angles you want to be covered from on that vehicle. So can people see you from the side? Can they see you from the rear properly, etc. So
Yeah, visibility is important, and I love this conversation of angles, and it's really interesting considering, how many times we have to park our trucks at all sorts of odd angles across the roadway, blocking a lane, or parallel to the roadway sometimes when you're trying to recover something off the side, things like that. So that really is an interesting conversation to have.
speaking of angles, that's one of the reasons that makes our light bar design what it is we use a technology called linear LED, which is a line of LEDs inside a deep parabolic reflector. And what that provides is a nice stripe of a horizontal stripe of lighting that protects wide from every angle. And having 4 of those linear LED corner modules in a light bar provides that 360-degree coverage that you really want.
So I think my long-term memory is kicking in here. When you said that, I'm like, would that be like the Lin 6? Is that one of those family?
Yep. Yeah. You'll see a lot of Lin references in Whelen's literature. That definitely means linear LED, which was I spoke to earlier, the first LED design that we came out with that people were shocked to learn that it really wasn't strobe. They couldn't tell it was LED because it was working so well when there weren't all these pixelated dots.
So, Shelly, I think you had a question on here about upgrading a light bar. Why don't you take us back to the past?
Oh, for sure. It would be. I want to buy a light bar, and I want to have 4 corner strobes, and that's all I want, so that I can call you back and order 1 or 2 at a time because they're so expensive. Is that possible? This is like 10, 12 years ago.
Right.
What does that look like today for someone buying a light bar?
Our most popular selling light bars in the tow and recovery business are still like the Justice bar, the Liberty 2, and the Freedom, depending on the look and style you're after. But the Justice is by far and away the most popular seller for us. And it still is today the easiest to open up and add or change light modules to if you wanted. To achieve certain price points early on in the tow and recovery business, we sold our Justice wrecker bar, I think with only 10 amber warning modules. So there were still a lot of open positions. And I think if I remember from my experience with AW Direct, there was a lot of sales of additional modules that people chose at a later time, maybe like people do with upgrading a computer, right? Like they didn't have all the money on the day they first bought the light bar, but over time they decided to add some more modules to add
Sure.
or to fill out the light bar.
So I think it's still something that's pretty common. Justice. What did you say? Justice, liberty, and freedom. Yes.
Freedom, yeah, and more and more there is a trend we're noticing more and more frequently that people are buying from us like Justice bars that are already completely filled too. So that's been kind of a change over the past 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And a bigger and bigger portion of our sales are the completely filled right out of the factory.
Interesting. You're making them more affordable, possibly?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
I love it.
Yeah, I think we've really we've come a long way in lighting technology, especially over the recent 10, 12 years or so, and it's been really interesting to watch.
Yeah, there was one question you had about what's next after LED.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier that LED's been around for decades, and it took many decades for the intensity to come up to where we could use it. We're seeing the advent of something called OLED out there, and it's starting to hit like the television industry and some other electronic industries. But we're going to have to wait and see if OLED really comes up to speed with intensity that we would need. And the O in that means organic. Traditional LEDs are based on like rare earth minerals. Organic is more of a solution that lends itself to more widely available materials to make the LEDs.
So, John, thank you for joining us. And we've always had some great conversations on this show, and this is just another really just interesting angle on safety and keeping our towers safe out there and making sure that everybody goes home at the end of the day. So, lighting is
Absolutely.
a big part of that, and we talk about safety of all different angles, includes training and education, but on-scene safety is a gigantic portion of that. So again, thank you for joining us, and we really appreciate you having here. And how can we reach you? How can our listeners reach you if they would like to get in touch with Whelen?
Well, my email address is jgolden, JGOLDEN @whelen.com.
And a web address or URL for Whelen?
www.whelen.com.
That's simple enough.
Perfect. Thanks so much. It's so great to see you, John.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it very much.
Really cool information. Thanks again to John and the Whelen team for coming on board. And
right.
You were right. I owe you $1. I'll see you next week. Payday's Friday.
There you go. And I'll take your $1 because I'm correct. So many things he talked about, Dennis, just absolutely blew my mind. I had no idea.
My head exploded.
Yeah, like things you absolutely do not even think about. You just think it's a LED, it's wiring, it's a lens. What's the big deal?
It's light. It flashes.
Yeah.
Put it in. Put more. Give me more.
The technology behind all of this now is so incredible. And the Bluetooth and the syncing up on the roadside, game changer.
The future is now.
Yes.
No, that's super cool stuff. I'm really excited to see where that comes in the future. And who knows? Maybe he will take back my idea about being able to command a scene. I really love the idea of that, but even just the recommendations on how to keep your equipment under control and keep that dust corrosion out, keep that water out, and the things that they're doing to improve on that as well. I think that's some really cool stuff.
Every single component they are taking a look at, and every single weather condition environment is tested. And one of my key takeaways from all this, you guys and gals, is you get what you pay for.
Absolutely.
What he said, there are 120 people out in the field for Whelen. Should you need anything? How fantastic. What a great company. In business for 70 years. John's been with them for 20. Love it.
That's fantastic. I mean, I've never had a Whelen product that ever failed on me, or if it did, that they wouldn't take care of right away. So they've always been excellent in my experience, and love to see where they're going in the future. And I love this new the angle stuff. I think it's a great idea. I think we're really moving in the direction of scene safety in the future. Make sure you check out all your state regulations before you install something. Know what's legal in your area. Know what's required in your area. If you're not allowed to run blues, don't run them. Be safe, but don't be silly either.
Completely agree, for sure. I also love that they are made in the USA.
Yeah.
That is, and like you said, there are some supply chain constraints that we talked about in our last.
We just did a whole show on that.
We did our live a couple weeks ago, but what a great guy. I loved having him on.
So if you're looking for Shelli and I, by the time this episode is released, we should be arriving in Fort Worth, Texas. So you can catch us at the American Towman Tow Expo in Fort Worth. That will be this weekend. If you are listening to this the week it drops, that would be June 16, 17, and 18. We'll be there. So come find us. We'll get you some free honk swag, and we'd love to talk to you more about who we are and what we do.
We will be in the booth ready for you. Absolutely.
Bring your cowboy boots.
I thought about buying some. Should I buy some?
I think you should buy some. Might as well wait till you get to Fort Worth to buy them, though.
You're not wrong.
Get you a nice pair of Lucchese's. I think that's the way to go.
What did you say? What did you say?
Nice pair of Lucchese's.
Lucchese.
I say it with the Italian accent.
With
With the Brooklyn Italian accent. Lucchese's.
I can't wait till our Texas people hear this.
Check out our social media. You can follow us at Honk for Help. You can check out, if you're a service provider looking for some more information on how to become a Honk provider, it's joinhonk.com. And otherwise, join us next time as we
Get
hooked. never gonna get it.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.